So right now, people who are new to this course or to the Buddhism, you may be wondering what really happened just now. This man is teaching me something. So should I? How does that work? Maybe. Okay. That's good. So whenever in your life, it's not about only the uh, uh, Buddhist teachings, but uh, in modern education, if you don't have interest and you're going to the school and you feel like waste of time, yes, and then more like you enjoy sleeping, and then uh, more like it's time to play with the classmates. That's how we feel. So it was lack of the interest. So I just heard that few uh, days ago, you all started to learn about the importance and the 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 main uh, practices of Buddhism. So very good. So uh, thank you for doing this. It's not coming. Hello, hello, hello. Oh. Okay. Exchanging and self. Okay, this is better. So you all came here to learn something, and especially uh, came here for look for a kind of happiness, or the best happiness, which getting much stronger to having a wish to uh, counteract or any kind of difficult situation comes in front of you, that you might become face problem, face a problem. Then it's a good way. Otherwise, Tushita place is full of kind of a forest, kind of forest, and monkeys, and then very peaceful. And then look at the weather; it's foggy and not much to do out there outside. And then spending maybe a few days and a month here, and then going out, and you don't feel something, whatever here, what is taught to you, if you don't feel that you are using this out there when you are back to your what do we call it, normal life. So then it's same thing, like we learned a lot in when we are very young, and then most of the subject It's not, we don't use that much. And then we say, yeah, I learned it, but now I forgot because it's not much use. So it will become similar to this. So now, today, what I'm going to talk about is, I don't have anything very special than what Rachel, your teacher, and then your meditation teacher. What's your name? Christy? Christy. Ah, Kirsty. Oh, Christy. Okay. Christy. So these two wonderful people has uh, given you so much teachings. So I might have not much something to add on there, but as today is a very special day, most of people, maybe you know why today is special, kind of, yeah. So today is the day, some people recognize that today is the one of the most important deeds of the Buddha Shakyamuni, that he has given his first teaching kind of publicly. And then one great master behind there's a huge statue there, Lama Tsongkhapa. He praised Buddha, saying that you have lots of deeds. You have lots of deeds. Perform lots of deeds. But Lama Tsongkhapa said, your teaching is the most special one. That is the really inspiration. Without this, we will have no refuge, because you give this teaching. So today is the day where when he talked about Four Noble Truths. So, as today's topic, I kind of tried to come up with a little bit like catchy and to attract, bring your attention. So then, because I just made it up, I couldn't say it through my heart. So I have to look it down. That day we are taught how to care for ourselves. Actually, we do this every day. We have somewhere in a brain that we need to take care of ourselves. Nobody does not need to tell anyone to take care of ourselves. We do it. But somehow we fail. Somehow. As a great Shantideva, one great Indian scholar said, the better English will be translated by Simon. But he kind of said something like, in this world, nobody wish to have a suffering, but they all look for a happiness. But with the ignorance mind, they kind of I kind of notice that they are destroying their own happiness. But they are not saying it. So-called this ignorance mind. Kind of, we do have this. We do have this. Can you give this in a better English? It's good. It's good. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you rush towards. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's good one. Should rush towards it under the sway of the what? Oh, did it? The rangit so shuchi did it. Rangit the what dadra jobs. That's really powerful. Danashi. Danashi Chunguru. So, this great master has given this kind of quotation that His Holiness Dalai Lama and many great masters, this is a kind of a quotation again and again says in a public teaching. So this is how it comes into my heart. So I can say it. I didn't kind of memorize it. So today, the Buddha, why we call him a great, is because he gave a teaching on the Four Noble Truths that saying this, when he taught about the first truth, which is the truth of suffering. And it is, we really need to know why Buddha said truth after the suffering. In English, it's before truth of suffering. In a Tibetan, it's after. So why the truth? Demba said, Ranjugi Nizu Manguchi, also Dembal Gabu. Dembal Gabu Yosan, also Duming Chola, the Gid Gobushivala, Sumba Nation Cheche, and in Duming Chola over two do say at Nation Cheche. Do Doyatic Harrison, Dilla Dembatonia, Dilla Devatonia, Dilla Zamatonia, Dewa Maying to the Devatonia. Zama image the Zama Tondu, indeed, Sabachinju, Lord Jedi, to me, Jig Namdo, Kiwang. It did to me, Jig Namdo the Carreon of the Church. Till it touch it, Dember Shamba, Dember Zimza. Perna Penning to Muchevina. Cheme Parshatu, Cheme Parsha, Kabla, or Banguduzo, so Shindu, Suini Shindu Yomba, Shindu wanting to die. Shindu Yomaris, Yinayang, Pigilia, touching to be Yidu wash, which it tongues, church. And if Piggy Chemigi word on Chum, it is a bit intimate. Then I think in around Zoya, and it's a touching to Pigilia, you don't want. Touching to Piggle of Popuchi to secret seminar of the years of sugar, and dig it years of Monroe Sumner Russia. Odi and the Dembasi children never jiggled.
Many kind of aspects of it. So we want to look to what we think is the truth, but actually, there's something in the religion is though we desire happiness, we head along into suffering. So it's quickly headed towards suffering. And this comes about because we have mistaken ways of seeing what we think is the truth is often a mistaken way of seeing reality. So we see things as certain things as being pleasant and being providing us with happiness, and other things as being unappealing and providing us with suffering. But actually, what happens is that we have a mistaken understanding of these things. So what we perceive to be happiness is in fact, or the cause of happiness is it's actually leading us to suffer. What we see to be kind of pure or clean is actually impure or unclean. And the things that even the things that we believe to bring suffering, not necessarily. So therefore, there's kind of completely influenced by looking nature. So we believe we could, but from this context, number two, and underlying all of this process is what we call what is translated as kind of imperfect conceptual engagement with things, which is underneath which lies the root of our problems, which is kind of believing that's the kind of inherent nature of believing in lasting or clinging to the true existence of God, which then drives this whole process. And a simple example of this is something like a moth in the big rock. Even if we put that in a candle flame, the moth has no wish to die, has no wish to kill itself. But in the process of believing itself, going towards something which provides it with which is the condition. If it flies into the candle and dies. And so we are kind of mistaken away that single mindedly clinging on to things is being appealing or attractive to us, and other things to be unappealing and unattractive in this kind of single pointed way. Under this underlying process of grasping into existence, this is how
아주 덴바를 주비지 바보요. 제가 말하는 로 투버 대양 로 출지 비결을 덴바. 덴바치도 없지. 덴바시 더다 와차도 요때 있나요?
Yes, so truth has many kind of aspects to it. So although these ways of thinking are, seeing certain things as very real when they're not, and seeing them as good, other things when they're not. We believe that it's true, and from our perspective, that is the truth. So the truth is not necessarily, the truth has many sides to what we believe to be true. It's not necessarily true.
나 자전거 동의기 덴바스 오늘 전에 동네로 봤어. 란조. 답변은 동네월 야 개발체 비로라. 다 도시에는 고토로제 개치슈디 다 마란조니알이야. 마란조 레젤레 소소소 개제치 봐. 란조 다 동의기 나로 요리요. 같이거든. 배나 동의나로 요리스도 지금 세미나로 다다 배까지 매니페스트 되겠지. 양식 세미나로에 지금 할 수 그래도 뭐 지금 수신부 스트레스 느껴지면 말이에요. 오 내가 란조 동의지나도 어디로 됐으나 동의기는 누구요? 동의기는 are we in the suffer?
So when you're taking this first noble truth, the noble truth of suffering, and maybe not going into that at this point. But the most important thing is to ask ourselves, ask ourselves the question, do we have suffering? Do we have suffering? Are we in suffering? Not necessarily talking about the very manifest, very obvious states of distress and suffering, and not just those under stress and tension and the real happiness that is there, but deep
also manifest your vacation check. And 동의지도 어디 있어?
Yes, if we grow, are we suffering? We're not talking about very much obvious things. When you feel over yourself.
So what do you think? Well, physically, you feel strong, okay? And mentally, so good because had a came here, Tushita, nobody forced you to be here, but you came with your own wish and had a good food, I guess. And then if the weather today is not good, like this morning, it's quite good. So good weather. And then everything, you made new friends, okay? And maybe kind of starting in a relation, okay? Whatever, just making things up. And then ultimately, if I ask this question, are you suffering? And maybe probably say, no, not yet. Our answer is like this, isn't it? And so, no, I'm suffering. Everything is going well now. So it's not
How are
like,
you?
I'm doing that. Thank you.
But now,
Let's forget about it. Just like making it very short. How are you just now? More like kind of just this some
so take make it a bit, make this topic a bit broader. Take cousin. So if we sort of not just thinking like in the moment, the way that we tend to answer, like, oh yeah, it's all good, but thinking a little bit sort of away from the very immediate situation, taking it further away from the immediate situation and seeing how we really are, how do we really feel, sort of a bit more kind of sort of away from just the immediate reply to the question.
I'm saying this because a few years ago, was invited in Tibetan and then one student asked him a question saying, well, if I'm very happy and then I'm in a very good mood, and then do I need to practice?
So you have to ask this question to His Holiness. And
I was thinking like, but then His Holiness looked at it, he became very spirit and said, no, you don't need it. Practicing Dharma is people who steal it. That was a very strong answer. So now I'm going back to this.
priceless.
When we start this and doing the mandala, and then now we feel like it's 100% in our life or really need it. So, like what His Holiness said, if you think this is really needed, then you become student. And now, how you should know that why they need this. And then now, what is the definition of suffering that we really think about? Right now, when we talk about, we only just know about suffering. The dunya
What's the meaning?
Dunya was the
So they have to, just to break it a little bit more technically, to break that down in terms of when we talk about suffering, it's usually in the text, it's technically a feeling, it's a mental state of feeling, a mental factor of feeling. But in the way in which we present something as being suffering, which is not technically necessarily having to be the mental factor of feeling, is to say that it's produced by under the influence of karma and mental afflictions. So that's kind of, so there's a little bit of a technicality. Not everything that is produced like that is the mental factor of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are not able to talk much about karma.
It's
More like going a little bit more to the
true serious Buddhist way of practicing.
But
When we talk about
our emotions,
negative emotions, this, I think, without the help of Buddha, we can understand. Just a mnemonic.
Under the sway or under the power of, under the control of the mental afflictions or the negative emotions.
Nobody will just wake up and say, now,
today I will let my mind go towards attachment. Nobody says this. And there will be nobody who will say like, today I think I wanted to be angry. No. But then how they fall in the trap of attachment. And then how this encourages inside you. We kind of don't have this answer. How this really in. And then sometimes we say, it's my weakness. That's our excuse. But now, Buddha is saying, that's not just a weakness. This is something that you really need to recognize. How it's happening, the problem coming. Then that's why this form of truth. It is the expression. They say, know the truth, know the suffering, truth of the suffering. And then he taught about the different kinds of suffering. And then he said, well, when you know about suffering, what will happen? Automatically you will say, what is the root? What is the cause of suffering? Automatically. And then once you know the cause of the suffering, and then automatically what will you ask? If you go to the hospital, okay? And then you have a strong migraine, and you know the feeling, like let's say stomach ache, maybe more cardiac. Okay. Okay, now we can stop here. And now you get the focus. And then first you wanted to know how this happened. You will think along. Maybe I ate something this morning, last night, party very well, but maybe this is the time I took this and this and that. Nobody is asking to you think about this because of this thing. You are knowing this pain very strongly. Now you want to know why it's happening. This is human nature. And then automatically right after this, then you will, after this, you will not go to hospital. Then once you wanted to feel like, I want to stop it, I want to seize it. And then you will go to hospital. And why you wanted to go to the hospital is to stop what the problem. That is the third one. And here, Buddha himself says, if you want to claim refuge, you can do it, you can protect it, you are your own. So now Buddha is one, he wants us to be one. Normally, when we go to the hospital, what the doctor will do is to give you the medicine, but they will not give the education on how to deal with this kind of process.
Because there's not a compassion.
From the Buddha, that you really need this. Because diarrhea maybe it will come or not come.
Guarantee.
But this kind of suffering is definitely there.
100%.
So you cannot just go every time you have a suffering, you cannot go to the Buddha. So then Buddha says, you need to become your own person. Here I'm giving you the tips how to do this. And then he says, these are the things you need to do. It. That's the path.
So that's
The fourth. No. So as I said, the main thing, this is our where we need to focus. We take a refuge in Buddha, Sangha, but more strongly we take refuge. The main refuge which is and then it's not like Buddha said it, Buddha is famous, Buddha is precious, the Holy One. I need to listen what Buddha says. It's not like Buddha himself said, you want to listen to me because I am on you have to if you have gone to his holiness temple
and
there's a Buddha speaking and I small
quote Silve, quote Utvati, Ikasati, quote saying, what's the Dimarve? Tuzimarve. Like both say, well, both. And the Tuzim correct, both same. English itself is very confusing, and then people say my English is not good. Rachel is looking at me. Rachel taught me English, so I need to be very careful here. Okay. So there it is written that
the main thing is you have to check my work. The meaning more you have to bring into your practice and then see whether it's working. So this is one of the greatest kind of freedom that Buddha has given to this freedom. So we need to take this opportunity to indeed.
the first, the best investigation is there's nobody in this room who have not suffered. I'm not talking about the physical suffering. I'm talking mentally, that we suffered. Some of we are still having this. Sometimes we have called trauma, or there are so many words. anxiety happened, and we have this imprint within us. Now, in worldly, how we challenge our suffering is more like we point fingers towards to others, like how can he do this to me? Why this has to happen to me? All these questions are more designed like you are looking out there at the suffering. It's more like if that kind of person is not in my life, there is no suffering. And this way of trying to overcome this kind of suffering, we tried it, we failed. It's more like you have to now kind of surrender with it, like in the movie we do, like if there's a war happening and you surrender, and there's a white flag saying like surrender. This is kind of what we should do. We have done so much, and ask your parents, ask your very friends and whoever, they have tried this, but the result wasn't that good. But now, is there something that we become strong from inside, like the immune system? Like immune system become very strong, and then there will be always kind of a disease or sickness out there. It will kind of virus will be there every time, but your immune system is strong. You don't need to worry much. Similarly, we cannot stop all the suffering out there. If you're in this small room, can we all become good friends? To be honest, people might go, yeah, for how long? It's a big question. So mostly, it is not necessary to be other people. It's the happiness is not kind of we should look from outside. We always think we can fix something outside there, and then we become so tired. I'm not saying don't do it, but you need to be very strong. You need to be very strong. Even somebody breaks your heart 100 times, and you have a full kind of backup energy reserved. Like Dharamsala, lights go out. I have a very convenient power bank. Like maybe for 3-4 days, no light, I have this power bank. If the signal goes, then I'm done. Similarly, we need this kind of backup. So for this reason, if you are here, then this is, I think, a right place, isn't it? I'm saying I need to be very careful. So now I'm going to the, I think, try in kind of the profoundness of the Buddha's teaching. 제 장가가 저 단다 반전 다와 잡기 아니 제 장가 아람주 동에 공약이 삼로디 미니 수직이 요마레스 Dumye Pondo Shadakis. In a Dumye Pon, Nialia, Tandang around Zulu, Cat Survey, Chada Chaber Jube, my own big. Dumye on Canyon di Numu then can just chundo. Or the rock, Dumye, 4 Dumye Cemetery, 4 Dumye di about the same down, same gig, then be toa. Same down, quarter jury, toa joba. Bishi could, Ishi could, sorry, Dumye did a chair. Oh, just on the jiggy, so what Dumye di. Dili tana chimoronya be loti tangdo yo di ya ho ju yong ba la nyan le ya du ni ji ju di mo de nyumo ba de ni yong dang nyumo ba de yang ani ran ju de dong jing xie ti a ma jing jing ma song ha le du yi na ha le ya gu yo guo ya chi yong gu du se chi ba de ja wa du de ta就热到谁的，让可对那里要不读谁的，你这个 fix， 就这样让着哪里呀，大不了自己就，大不了自己东西，大不了谁去，你可对呢，得我读谁，大不了自己就，我等这个大不了自己，三落地，头儿别个吃多，那你동행的吧，좀 된 되게 막送도 준비. 동행이 체제돼. 그래서 미다 동행이 체제돼. 미다가 좋지. 그래서 미다가 좋지. 난 미다비 고아디 혹시 고소는 랑신기 아니 동행이 단다데 세고 되지. 어디냐 직접.
There's a great Indian Buddhist master called Chandakirti, who says in one of his texts that there isn't anybody who doesn't wish to get rid of, to abandon their suffering. Everybody has this sense of wishing to remove their suffering and get rid of their suffering. But of course, that depends on but then it needs a much deeper kind of context for that, in the sense of what are the causes which help to remove it, and what is the state of complete removal of that suffering, and what are the causes that lead to that. Now, in the technical kind of Buddhist literature, there we talk about the suffering as being this kind of secondary kind of mental factor, which is present with in conjunction with other kind of main mental states. So there's a kind of main mental state, and then the feeling is a kind of factor concordant with that main mental state. And that's when we talk about that feeling of suffering, this is what we're talking about, having the wish to separate ourselves from, to get rid of, to abandon, and therefore to separate ourselves from that. That's the kind of primary thing that we're talking about. But also we have to recognize the process through which that suffering occurs, which is to understand that this suffering is connected and produced by, or generated by, the negative emotions, the mental afflictions. And underlying that is a strong sense of kind of incorrect kind of strong sense of self. So that has many, in the Buddhist way of thinking, it has many aspects. So that can even be just that very permanent, that's kind of central focus of ourselves, which has the hopes, and which on the basis of which we have hopes and fears. That feeling, that basis, which provides us with the feeling that we always need to have happiness and suffering. But then at a deeper level, so that's a kind of grasping at what would, to some extent, be a kind of permanent self, an unchanging permanent self. But then at a deeper level of grasping at that's grasping at a permanent, solid, unchanging self. But beneath that also, this the grasping at the self to be inherently existent, kind of intrinsically existent. And if we think of it just on the sort of less deeper level, at the level of just this grasping at a kind of solid, unchanging, permanent self, which always has to be provided with happiness, then the Buddha talks about this and this is something that we need to get rid of. This is something, this sense of self is something we need to separate ourselves from. And the Buddha, when teaching the noble truth of suffering, the first noble truth, this is one of the aspects that he talks about, in terms of there are different aspects of the first noble truth, but one of them is the understanding of the impermanent nature, particularly in relation to oneself. So that's understanding that that the self is not permanent and unchanging, but changing and impermanent is one of the kind of first kind of starts, and the Buddha gives us an understanding of the Four Noble Truths in the first truth. And so this is something that we have to understand very clearly.
야구지 중난이 가 부자 중난 람상 마가 차로 주고 린지디 다 자와들이야 아니 먼저만 손에 던진기 삼실이 되었어 다 던진기 삼로티 야 덤버 집이 던진시가 던진시 납치 던진디에 다차스 납치고 알쳐 차고 나디 인도 전에 제장한 란주기 아니 배나 배를 지켜오는 배나 아니 타직도 야보 타직도 두자 세 계제디 먼저 들려야 따버진다는 그대로지 생겨서 근데 유기 니즈 지마지 마심치 유기 니즈도 컨트롤 지어서도 또 주르베랑시 텔레테니 두니에 기초를 대화에 기초를 배나 이제 삼당내 하고도 텔레테니 대화에 기초를 두니에 기초를 쓰도 미팅을 하는 거 같은 거 다시 예 타지도 콜이야 그뒤에는 초보스 시지수 지기배 르 케비나 르게 체비나 공하는 거고 먹고 당 잡듯이 와 그거 당 연주 전에 말 두미에 찍도 그 대화에 찍도 근데 연주 전에 딜 때니 아주 호알이 니고 믿으세요 최고조 남주송이야 호알이 니고 어jen스나 네 호알이 고외기 최도 좀 현진 차고 되게 될 때니 아니 수수파도 차그러서는 어로지는 얘기 고외 편조의 팔로에 땅들을 야나 고외 편조디가 가추 유셔스 네 고외 편조디 유지그리 야나 고외 편조가 가 유지 봐 야나 파유리 야나 추유 이팅 캡스 단제 이제 전에 아니 저장가 먼저 셈나로리아 야고지나 그 뒤에 냠도 대교 중보다 다도 하는 거지 봐 삼로 주 언제 될 때는 먼저기 셈만 까니 먹고 용돼야 돼 먼저 맞는 인지게만 좀 픽스 just 그래 픽스 픽스 대화시도 피거든 용해하게 짠 거 피거든 요새 어딜 땅진 유진나 좀 되지 될 때는 아주 로 추버진데 우스 어디 숨어도 봐
And so, in terms of this, the way we kind of cling onto the sense of self,
not necessarily going into all the very subtle levels of which that's presented, but just on a level where we have the level that we're easily identifiable, we have this strong attachment to ourselves, a strong attachment to finding happiness, and a strong attachment to avoiding suffering. And we sort of cling to we have through that strong sense of the self, we kind of cling to those things very deeply. And the root of this is the kind of and so there's those attachments come through the attachments of external things come through the attachment to oneself, a strong attachment to oneself. It doesn't have to be at these very subtle levels, but the root underlying it again is grasping to a self, grasping at a form of the self which doesn't exist, and then these further attachments come. So an example of this is when we completely feel like things are 100% or 100% good, or completely fixed and 100% good, or fixed and 100% negative or bad, but of course this is always going to lead us to misunderstandings of the situation, because things are in the nature of change. There isn't anything that can 100% provide us with happiness at all times, and 100% provide us with 100% provides us with suffering or discomfort at times. So things are a kind of, they have a changing nature on the basis of a particular thing. Both are possible. Both suffering and happiness are possible. And so there's this, you know, there's yeah,
100% fighting.
yeah. So nothing is fixed in that way, and this is so thinking of things as 100% bad or 100% good is a misunderstanding of the fact that they have a changeable nature, and we can see this with you know, even with interaction with people we know, that someone can you know, be a very good friend to us, but then at some point they trick us or cheat us, and we think, you know, oh, you know, how could this occur? But it's the same person, but they were able to provide us with happiness, and then later with difficulty. So for Buddhist practitioners, they tend to think of the whole of the kind of samsaric world as having no real essence to it. That this strong clinging to this strong attachment to the sense of self, this attachment and grasping to a kind of self which doesn't really exist, the way we grasp it it means that the samsaric world never has any essence. So we have to sort of get away from that kind of interaction in the world, because it's guaranteed that with nothing ever being 100% guaranteed to be good, and nothing guaranteed to be 100% happiness, that at some point these things will fail us. So the 가서 고위분서 난즈기 고위분서 봉고로 고위분서 난즈기 봉기래.
이거 가지고 지금
So the nature of the kind of cyclic existence, the samsaric world, is that these things will the wonder, the things that we talk about as being the sort of joys of the samsara, the things that we really enjoy about the samsaric world, will either eventually abandon us or we will abandon them. So as a very simple example, for instance, in relationships, at some point it's likely that either there's this instability and lack of essence where the other person could quite easily, break up the relationship, and in the same way, it's also from our side that might happen also. So there's nothing which is 100% fixed or stable. So this is important to sort of the context to understand.
Samsara, we say samsara.
It's one way of thinking. If I look at this card, this when our mind is so contaminated,
Looking at this cup,
then using this card.
for a kind of helps you to bring more attachment. Then we can say samsara. But then if you look at this cup, but then if knowing the reality of it, and automatically dissolves your attachment. Then no more samsara. The true reality. So it's more with this deluded mind, how we look into the situation. My kind teacher, when he was, he visited his family one time, and then one of his relatives, a daughter, she's maybe she's 12 or 13 years old, and every time when it's a Sunday, and she becomes so maybe Saturday she will become so happy evening, because her favorite cousin, or I don't know, the girl is coming to visit her. So she becomes so excited, so happy. And then the Sunday evening, the girl has to go somewhere, so that the small girl will always have this sad face. And then this happened for a long time. And then one day, when her the cousin comes to visit her, she was not showing this happy face anymore. And then everybody asked, why you are not happy today? Your favorite cousin is here. And then she said, no, I'm not happy today, because I know she's going tomorrow. That was her answer. And then family start complaining, saying like, oh, you're so stupid. She has to go, and you can enjoy now, and so on. And my teacher was so surprised, because he's looking for this way of samsara. It's like kind of she is recognizing this cunning way that either you have to let it go, or it will let you go. It will let you go back. It will abandon you. That's better. So that's why she cannot bring the happiness. So then my teacher said to his family, said, well, you are thinking that the way of her behavior sounds like she does not know how to enjoy, but she is now getting some sense what the true happiness can be. So then my teacher said, you people need to learn from her. They were just like, what? So now the great question comes here. Now, without this kind of thinking, can we still enjoy? Can we still be happy? Can we still in the relation? It matters. So then it is, Buddha said, yes. So then he said about with having the understanding of having the realization of the true nature, and then you have to do all the same thing what you've been doing. Generosity, all the 6 perfections. So what do you think? Do you think you really need to adapt this kind of new way of enjoying life? Or are you going to enjoy the life as normally how always we've been trying to enjoy? At the end, somewhere we are lost. So it's a little bit worth putting effort on this new way to see and explore. And the good thing, you don't need to become a Buddhist. Otherwise, you feel, you see, this yellow guy came and he's trying to convert. Yeah, so it's without clinking, still the happiness system. Without a clinking, still you can be happy with it. We always say, what is true love? You ask this question. And we try to answer, it's called unconditional. Correct? We say this. We say this as like, this is it. This is the only way. But our behavior, our way of how practicing this is totally different. It's more like why I love you and respect to you is, it's more like kind of demanding, more like I have a trust in you that if I love you, you will make me happy. It's more kind of this way. And then once this feeling like you cannot make me happy anymore, that means we need to take a break. Sounds like I'm trying to teach you how to get in a relationship. True and pure remission. That's what I'm trying to say here. So this is necessary. This is what Buddha is talking. And then look at the Buddha's teaching. How much he spent time to bring his teachings so profoundly. All these 100 volumes of his teaching. He openly said it, I did this for all of you. And then he said, the bodhicitta, this is why it becomes so important here. He's saying like, if you respect me, and then if you saying you have a respect in me, in me, at me, for me, okay, that's better. For me, and then you start harming others. It's 2 different things. That proves a contradiction. Their contradiction. You harm one sentient being, you are harming me. That's what he said openly. Because what I have put all my energy, why I become Buddha, is for all the sentient beings. So it's powerful. It's a powerful teaching. So it's not like Buddha didn't give anything to us and saying like you cannot harm others. It's really affecting me or something. It's more like these teachings. Each and every time I meditate, and visualization is for all of you. And then if you are harming one other person, and it's similarly, you are kind of harming my idea, harming my kind of not knowledge, but I don't know, my methods to reach to certain beings. Now, I think as we don't have much time saying everything in English, then I need to be slow down and translate from here to here. It takes time. That's it. Ramzo Shidi similar Shidi do said. He was Shidi do said. So the Dungi da Sarangu to which chan Deva Devi Shiva the Maimba. Ani Dungi Chini Chigi never son of Ji. Lever Yamayan. Hele ya Dagirma Chigi. Tagu Match dealing Ding Dagir Chingage Machuna and Dilia Jumedi. Dumi maybe Deva. Dumi maybe Deva. Or the digital in Mela Dagir Machena, Dagir Machena, Till. Oh, Dumi maybe Deva.
So we all of us
wish for states of peace and calm in our lives. But the main thing in the text, it talks about this state of happiness with completely lacking in any form of kind of suffering at all. And the way the Buddha explains to us how to arrive at that state is that when it's not so much about ceasing all of the suffering, it's more the sense in which when suffering comes to us, we don't really take ownership of it, so just in some sense. There's a kind of because so not taking it, almost like not taking it personally, something like that, not taking hold of it, not taking this kind of strong kind of ownership or hold of it, and that's what leads us to this state of happiness without any form of suffering.
Yeah. For example, this teaching Buddha has taught quite profoundly, but similar way of even our body is having a pain, but then the mind, you don't hold it as a pain, but through the mind we feeling like sometimes pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Like you are in a we have to go back to the relation again. So in the relation, in the first peak of the relation, and then you start teasing the girl, or the girl just hit you, body is full of pain. But you really feel like part of enjoyment. Isn't it? It's really funny. It's really tricky. But an enemy comes to you and hit you, maybe not like your girlfriend. It's like just a little push, no bruise, okay? But then you just go, oh, really? So it's the power of the mind. We have to recognize this. Just holding to this. So when I read many times of some of the Buddhist story, especially this story called the tale of Angulimala. Maybe some of you have heard of this tale. Anybody? Angulimala? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, 5, 6. Yes, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. So normally I have this comic. I just read it when I was young. It's so good. But then a few years ago, maybe now 9 years ago, my teacher was giving a teaching, and then he brought up, because such a, we say the moral of the story. He brought up such a great advice in there, saying, maybe many people are now wondering about what is the tale about. Maybe there's more days you can tell them the story. The Angulimala is known as a kind of a bandit. Bandit? The band, the Mardaya. Oh, bandit, okay, not a band. Bandit. So then he, a kind of robber, kills people, and then he collects people's finger. That's scary, isn't it? For some kind of black magic thing. Okay. So he's collecting so many souls or something like this. So then when he met with the Buddha, and the Buddha gave him such a great teaching, and then he become student of Buddha. So then one day what happened, he become a very good practitioner. And then one day when he become a monk, and then he went for begging for alms. And then some people come to recognize he was this bandit and killed their parents and so on. And then a mob came and beat him up, beat him up, and bruise and blood starting from him. And then he started crawling towards where Buddha is. And then finally he reached to the Buddha. And then Buddha came, and the Buddha put his head on his lap, and then Buddha asked one question. Any slightest anger came? And he said, with a folded hand, he said, due to your kindness, no negative emotions. And then he passed away. So then when Buddha gave teaching, he said, this is sign that he got liberation. So then this is in the comic book. This is the comic book. But then my teacher said, he brings a question. Okay? A good teacher always try to give you a question, because we are not that smart to bring up good questions. To be honest, that includes myself. So my teacher is so kind to bring a question like, why did he said, due to your kindness, no negative emotions, full of pain? And the Buddha asks, not only he has anger, but he will ask, is there pain? That's it. Pain and anger. And he said, no pain, no anger. So why no pain? Of course, we can see blood coming out. He cannot walk, and then he says whatever the things come out when you are in a pain. Or yeah, whatever. I don't know what. What do you say this in English? Crying out, wailing. It's coming, but in this kind of because we say that the person who is in the death chamber, his last words are the most the truth will come out. So this is his kind of truth. So my teacher asked this question, and there is a pain. People will see there is a pain. People will say, oh, this poor thing, for sure. But then why did he say there's nothing? So now that it goes, he has no hold. He does not hold through this kind of pain anymore. Because no grasping towards I. But still he functions very well. So this is kind of a very high level example. But now, as I brought up this picture of the relation of this funny experience, we can still practice this kind of thing. So try to put whatever you study and try to put that into practice. Never, you don't need to become Buddhist, but ask the question without clinging. Why this clinging brings suffering? You have to ask this. I'm still asking this. I do less kind of commitments and do all kind of pujas and rituals and these retreats. But time to time, I try to ask myself, why, how does this clinging brings more suffering? This is sometimes much more stronger. It's more like critical situation. So this really helps me. And that's what I'm trying to share with you on this wonderful occasion. Okay. So now maybe we deliver to the novel until 5, isn't it? Until 5. So we can have a question and answer. Before that, before I conclude, I wanted to say, I don't know right after this who is going to practice what I just said. But most importantly, whenever difficult situation, things become difficult in front of you, there's 2 ways of thinking. First, always check your mind, your behavior, whether I did something wrong or not first. And then secondly, other people's behavior. Once you cannot think that you might be not wrong, you might be wrong. If you don't have this kind of feeling, there's no way to bring dialogue with that person. because self-centered attitude will be always there. And then talking will bring more problem. We went through this. We have seen this, some kind of dialogue does not bring any fruitful. So tip for you is whenever you are going to have a dialogue with your partner, your family, or your enemy, first try to check from your side. Maybe I have done something wrong. I have said something on this kind of part. How are you going to apologize to yourself and to others? And then, because this is very normal. I don't need to teach you how to do this, because whenever we wanted to bring a dialogue, we say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say these things. We say that. But then other persons start talking more about you are wrong, and then you become like, no, and then you're trying to protect yourself. Yes, you need to protect yourself, but you don't need to protect your ego and the grasping and the deluded mind. So it is really important to recognize whether you have this deluded mind. It's necessary. It doesn't mean that we are fully deluded. It's more like Buddha is saying, like the climate of the Magraganj. Morning, very, very good. And then very foggy when I came here. Now look at, it's getting better. Tomorrow may be very sunny. And you don't know about around 2 o'clock what happens. So it's more like this. So we need to know it's diluted. And then it can be removed. So we say the stain what we have is called temporary. Yeah, so try to do that, and then you, most of you all here, very young, and people like you with a modern education, and then physically strong, mentally kind of stable. No guarantee. So now look for a guarantee. Can do this. Because one of my teachers, he gave lots of very good teachings. And then one day, we all went for His Holiness Dalai Lama's teaching. And so crowded. And then on this, he was going through the stairs, right? Down the stairs, and then one elderly lady, because maybe you haven't experienced this. Sometimes it's really good. Like a push, lots of push, crowded. It's maybe not kind of push like you in a concert. Okay, this push is different. Like just nobody apologize. Like you fell there somewhere. Nobody cares. So then my teacher was doing maybe a few steps ahead, and then one elderly lady just crossed, and my teacher was quite kind of weak. So then he almost fell. And then he automatically put his hand near to his heart, and he made a kind of strong meditation. He did it. I saw this. It's not like he gives a nice teaching and he's not doing it. He's doing it. I noticed it. And that is the beauty. Because now I see whatever he is saying so nicely, it is happening in him. And from him, if I learn about forgiveness, about compassion, it's true. The truth is there. 100% pure. For me, my case, maybe it's like the supermarket. You get a honey, maybe 70% fake. And a label is like pure. Kind of like this. But still, this 20% helps, yeah? Okay. So if my teacher can do it, I can do it. I can do it, you all can do it. Right? So let's do it. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Jambe Payu Jidra Chambano Kundu Sambo Antigen de Kunye Jesu Dab Yawa Dida Tamje Radu Tuzum Shebe Yawa Tamje Yunga Chodong Bashin Geva Zawa Digu Sambo Chuche Radu Mo Yi Kanre Uveshimozo Kananda Wama Jeres one Tenzin Jazoji Shabe Side Vado Tenjuruji Yawa Yanda Lama than Jeremy Chudi Bella Long Jujin Sadan Lamgi Yundel Dorji Changi Gobang to Temperature Chogi Majava Chapian Yambur Juve Chod Ningji Chimbu Yerovjeva Yapende till the several chever. So thank you. Okay, we can have, I think, 2 questions. Okay, 2 questions, one from a man and one from women. So okay, yes.
Question the last couple of days,
or the concept of no self.
Okay.
So this self, when if self doesn't exist, then how can suffering exist, or how can ignorance exist? If the self doesn't
Wow. Very good question. Who confused you? I think it doesn't mean that self does not exist. We have to add a little bit more here. This there is self. The self is not a problem. The way of how we cling to the self is the problem. That's why we are saying deluded, because we don't know how to love ourselves. We protect ourselves. We do so many things because I wanted to care about myself. This is today's topic. Buddha taught you how to take care of ourselves. So there's a self. But we care about ourselves that we feel like things really exist by its own. Like it does not depend on something. So now I asked you this question. When you look at me, you will say, I have seen Serkong Rinpoche. That's my name. So now, worldly, it's okay. Like, yes, this is Serkong Rinpoche. You have seen it. But now, let's go more deeper. When you say this, you have seen Serkong Rinpoche. Can Serkong Rinpoche be seen? So Serkong Rinpoche is this form. Are you trying to say he is the form? He is the body? If he is the not body, how can you see him? Now I'm confusing you, isn't it? So now this is how our mind is so fixed. Like 100% there's somewhere there, like so much grasping. But then Buddha comes up with in the Heart Sutra, he teaches you how to meditate on yourself. So then he takes all the 5 aggregates, the form aggregate, and kasati, the feeling, and the discrimination, opposition, all consciousness. You cannot find this I. You cannot find that kind of I. You have to add this wow, that power. Feel like there's something from its own. This is so-called I. Like this cup. Look at it. You will say, I've seen a cup. I'm holding a cup. But on the convention level, it's okay. But on the ultimate level, where is this cup? So we are holding this cup from ultimately through existence. So then you cannot prove there's a cup. And now it's really important. In order to understand the conventional truth, you really need to know the ultimate truth. So, but for us, we see that self as that what we just labeled as I. That is ultimately somewhere there, somewhere here. That you can find it. Now Buddha said, all this unhappiness, all this attachment, all this anger comes from this kind of attitude. Attitude, misunderstanding. So once you see this misunderstanding, the mistaken mind, and what is the correct way of the self is, on the ultimate level, things does not exist by its own. Because the best reason is things all depends on each other. It's more like if somebody can stand up by themselves, then he does not need to rely or depend on others to stand up. But if he cannot, then he is dependent, then he needs a help. So that means he cannot sort of 对不过，对吧？对不过，对吧？闲的对不，闲的对不当，闲的对不当，马对不当往你的，对吧？
So the two, relying on another, and then, the independence of our life.
You want to leave it.
Sorry.
The two of relying on other phenomena of the factors to that one perspective, and then being completely unreliant and therefore independently unreliant on anything else. These two are completely contradictory kind of ways of existing. They're two completely contradictory things.
But then once you see the reality of this,
There's no solitarily this existence of I, which always causes your problem. When you see there's no such thing as like this, then it's a good news. Then it becomes so good news that to whom? The people who wants to get out from suffering. So then it's a good news. Then still they bring more kind of compassion. Because even things does not exist by its own, but we grasp towards it so much. And people do the same. Other people are doing this. That's how they look at me like this. They see the problem, solid problem on me. We say this is, we sometimes say, this is my problem. We say this or not. That's the proof. Solitarily there. But once having the understanding of the true nature, the ultimate truth, then look into the how things function, you can see so clear. And then automatically compassion is there. And then this is the best forgiveness. It's more like saying, you, once I was like you, I was under the sway of this influence of this grasping, and you are the same. So we have something in common. Very easy to forgive. If we, that's how we say, if we look from the top of the hill, we look at it, we can see so. Now, like Google Map, you just go like, oh, my house, so nice. And then you just, I don't know how to zoom out. You feel like, well, not that so self-centered I, my house. So, oh, then this small ball, which just looks like this. So relatively, you think it's good. Relatively, you think it's bad. Relatively, everything relative. I give you one story. This is one of my best story I ever share with my friends. I have one Italian student and a good friend. So then one day he looks like he missed his home, Italy. and that means he's missing pizza for sure. And then I say, well, you don't need to go back to home for this kind of reason. I take you where I know there's a very good pizza. So I brought him here at Morgan's. You know, with people who love, they know where is it. So Morgan's. And then I ordered their best pizza and then order it like very professionally. And the pizza was served. And then I was looking for his kind of reaction. And then he ate. And with a politely, and then I said, how's it? How's it? And then really politely, he said, respectfully, he said, well, relatively, it's good. That means not that good, isn't it? Relatively is a very powerful, yeah. So, like my friend has said, relatively, it's very powerful. And relatively, he can be my enemy. Relatively, he can be my parents. Relatively, he can do this. That is no fixed something. So to see this kind of a relatively thing, what makes you say it from the sincerely from the depth of your heart, once you have a good understanding of the ultimate truth, which is called also emptiness. So once you see this very clearly, then you can say, yes, things depend on each other very perfectly. So then I can have an enemy. I can have a friend. I should respect them equally. So then there's something common ground for everybody. Okay, so the next, yeah, okay.
Also, from what I understand,
Mm. Mm.
So, how can we actually understand?
또 되게 무서워요. 다닐 때마다.
So, what I meant was that everyone has.
Yeah.
So then, all the words we use have a fixed idea, right? That we attach to it, and everyone has the idea. The way we talk of like, there's a lot of emptiness concept.
Okay.
So how can we truly understand someone's suffering?
Okay. So first of all, we need to clear about what you mean by fixed. So they believe it's fixed to me. But like I'm always right. You are always wrong. This kind of fix. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. yeah, the definition. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, yeah, that's yes, that's a very good point, because if you ask the translators, they have all this problem. They always have to face this problem. And somebody says the shunyata, or in Tibetan it's called tongbani. Many of my friends don't accept this is the right word. And some say it's better to say whiteness. Some people say other things. But anyway, don't emphasize on the word. Go with the meaning. So when you kind of know the meaning, then you will use this word to carry the meaning. It's like a container. The container is not important. Whatever you're going to put in there is more important. Sometimes outside container so beautiful, inside not very good, like Amazon package. Inside just maybe only 100 rupees thing, and the outside box is so nicely packaged. Not like that kind of thing. So first you really need to know the meaning of the emptiness. Then automatically you will come to know, even you say emptiness or whiteness, you can use anything, but then you know what you're saying. Like in a Tibetan community, most people are called Tenzin. Right? Many people get confused. You are a Tenzin, she is a Tenzin, he is a Tenzin, even dog is a Tenzin too. So it's confusing. But it's not confusing when you know whom you are saying Tenzin to. But it's confusing to the person who comes the second, who is not new to this. Whom you are talking about now. But the person I know this whom Tenzin I'm talking about, I'm not confused. Similarly, that's why we need to have a kind of, it's important to have a common word for every translators when we talk about. So Shunyata, it's very common for every Indian masters. Also, the Tongpani, normally in a Tibetan language, day-to-day life, nobody is going to use this. But the practitioners and people who wanted to study about philosophy, they need a definition, and then they want to know about emptiness. This is what it's called. So good definition is needed. That's what I'm saying. So then problem is solved. Today, I think the word, as one great master said, you can say it. Sigi, Tengi Gembo, Tengi Gembo, Gembo Sidi Gembo, Tengi Gembo, Sigi Karawa, then languages. Sigi Karawas in the sticks or cranes, but diligent languages. It's the word as the old man, yeah. No, the 20, yeah, the old man as a meaning, and the stick. Yeah. So, you get it? Actually, the example should be very, very easy. Simple. If the old man who cannot stand up by his own, then he needs a stick. So now old man is like the meaning, and the stick is the water. So we have this saying. So it's similar. Okay. So thank you. Now I think we need to stop here. Yes, we need to stop here. Sorry for this. And and you have wonderful teachers here. So save this question and ask them, and tell them don't confuse us, not to confuse us much more. Thank you, Tushita, all the staffs, and the lady Deputy Lama Subra, which is hope and vision, and is that you people, that we can serve and also share our knowledge and wisdom. This is Lama Subra and His Holiness Dalai Lama's vision, and we are trying to fulfill that. So, and Tushita is doing this. Very happy to do this, and thank you for your attention, paying interest doing this. And I will thank you more in the future that you try to practice this in your day-to-day life. Then we will be much more happier. Thank you, and yeah, and that's it. Thank you.